We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. We're going to chat with him about what we've all seen here in the first week plus of the season, how he tries to gauge some of these teams, some of these players with a limited amount of data. We'll dive in on some of the games that we're going to be seeing on Sunday as well, and a few surprises to begin the season in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, RCM, the does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had a fun day of baseball on Saturday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Brewers and the Royals played a double dip, and it was a split. Game 1 goes to the Brewers, 5-2 the final, as they got a nice start from Chad Patrick. 5 scoreless innings, did walk 3, but got out of danger for the Royals. They went just 2 of 13 with men in scoring position in this one, and Luinder Avila, 5 runs allowed in 3 innings, including a home run to Garrett Mitchell, his first home run of the campaign. From there, the bullpen was good. Daniel Lynch was able to supply 2 scoreless innings. John Schreiber, Steven Cruz, a scoreless inning apiece. Alex Lang, 2 scoreless innings. And for the Brewers, they did have Aaron Ashby give up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings, but Abner Uribe far outside the bullpen scoreless. Trevor McGill, a scoreless inning. And then game number 2, the Royals flipped the switch as they get an 8-2 win as they put up a 6 spot in the 6th inning to power them to victory. Seth Lugo gives up 2 runs in 5 innings. You had a sort of a pseudo opener in this game. Logan Henderson came in. He gave up 2 runs in 2 innings. From there, Brandon Sproke gives up 4 runs in 3 2/3 innings, including a home run going deep for the Royals. Salvador Perez for a second of the campaign. Jared Koenig from there, 2 unearned runs, give it up in a third of an inning. Jake Bauers had an error in the field that hurt him. DL Hall, 2 scoreless innings, but Royals find a way to be able to get a split there. Dodgers looking pretty beastly out there in our nation's capital, 10-5. They're able to take down the Washington Nationals as Tyler Glasnow, 2 earned runs allowed, give it up over the course of 6 innings, 9 punch-outs. From there, Ben Kasparis does give up 2 runs in an inning, gave up a home run to CJ Abrams, 3rd home run in the campaign. You had Edgardo Enriquez give up a run in an inning, Tanner Scott a scoreless inning, but all that was much better than Jake Irvin, who gave up 6 runs in 4 innings. From there, you had Brad Lord, old Lord, giving up 3 runs in 2 innings, including a home run to Andy Paz, 3rd home run in the campaign. Gus Varland, a run given up in his inning of work. Did have 2 scoreless innings from one Mr. Cole Henry, but way too little, way too late out there. Now, you want to be checking your house rules from time to time when it comes to betting on baseball, because some places, if you had the run line and the over like myself for the Tigers, you got the win. Other places, not so much. Called with 1 out in the 9th inning. Tigers get the win 11-6. A lot of books make it to where the losing team has to get 27 outs for you to be able to have action, / the road team has to get 27 outs. That's the rule that I always refer to it as. So if you add that, that is brutal, because the Tigers were in full control of this game, despite the fact that Captain Jack Flaherty was captain of the SS, giving up 5 runs in 4 innings. From there, you did have Brent Herter give you a scoreless inning. Drew Anderson, he gives up a run in an inning. Will Vaz, Tyler Holton, both on a scoreless inning. Of course, Kenley Jansen was on in the 9th inning, so you never know what was going to happen there. But Dustin May, it was May Day for him. He gives up a pair of bombs as going deep off of him. Zach McKinstry, first home run in the campaign. And then you had Kerry Carpenter get his first home run in the campaign, gives up 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Gleyber Torres then goes deep off of Matt Hansen. He gives up a 1 run, a solo home run in 2 1/3 innings. And for Torres, his first home run in the campaign. Also had Matt Vierling go deep off of Chris Roycroft, gave up 2 runs in his inning work. And Justin Brule, 1 1/3 innings. He allows a run along the way as well. The White Sox with back-to-back wins over the Blue Jays, 6-3 the final. Blue Jays had to go sort of a pseudo bullpen bullpen game in this one. Mason Fluharty, he gives up a run in an inning as an opener for Lazaro Estrada, who he gives up nothing in his 4 innings of work. He was solid, but then Brandon Little comes up very little, gives up a pair of home runs, 3 runs in total over the course of 2/3 of an inning. How about Colson Montgomery get his second home run of the campaign? And then the international import, Munetaka Murakami, 4th home run of the campaign. He has been hot to begin the season. Tommy Nance, 1 2/3 inning scoreless. Brad Fisher, 2 unearned runs, give it up in an inning. Taylor Heineman, he had another throwing error, back-to-back days with an error for him. And then you had Grant Taylor as the opener for the White Sox, give you a scoreless inning. Anthony Kay from there gives up 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings. Flagler Jr., first home run of the campaign off of him. Chris Murphy gives up a run in an inning. Jordan Nix, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Sean Newcomb coming out of the bullpen scoreless. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez, a scoreless inning of his own. For the Seattle Mariners, absolutely nothing doing at the plate. They get shut out by the Angels 1-0. Jack Kachanowicz, who was absolutely awful last season, 7 strikeouts and 5 2/3 innings scoreless, and it's been a rough start to the season for the Mariners because they got a good start here from Emerson Hancock. He does give up a solo home run, but allows just 1 run in 6 2/3 innings. Zach Neto took him deep for his 3rd home run of the campaign. That came in the 1st inning. That'd be the lone amount of scoring that you got in this game. Edward Bazardo, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless for Seattle, and then you had Joey Lucchesi and Drew Pomerantz both give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Chase Silseth, Jordan Romano, they both had a scoreless inning. Sam Bachman, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, but for Seattle, they leave 9 men on base, 0 of 7 with men in scoring position, so that left a little bit of something to be desired. The Athletics have had a little bit of a tough time at the plate as well. 11-0, the Houston Astros get the job done here. You had Christian Walker get his first home run in the campaign. That comes off of the starter Luis Morales, who is not long for this game. 3 innings pitch, he gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned, including that bomb, and then you had Cam Smith get his second home run of the season off of another Luis Medina, who gives up that solo home run in 2 innings. He wasn't too bad. You did have Hogan Harris not be a hero of Hogan. 3 runs allowed over the course of an inning. Elvis Alvarado left the building, having given up 2 runs in 2 innings. Michael Kelly a scoreless inning, but how about what you were able to get out of the international man of mystery, Tatsuya Amai? He comes in 5 2/3 innings scoreless, punches out 9 out there in Sacramento, not easy to do. Kaiwei Tang, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Stephen Okert is able to spy a scoreless inning as well. Not a lot of scoring out there in Pittsburgh. The Pirates, they get a 3-2 win over the Baltimore Orioles as the Wizard of Oz, Shane Baz, was actually quite good in this game. 1 unearned run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Uncle Rico Garcia not out of the bullpen scoreless. Grant Wolf from a scoreless inning, but the bullpen lets you down. Ryan Elsley picking up where he left off. He gives up the winning run in this game, and then you did have a run given up in an inning as well by Anthony Nunez for the Pirates, being able to walk it off for them. You had Corey York be able to get an RBI double, and Carmen Bolzinski was able to come in for 4 2/3 innings as a starter, gives up 2 runs, and the bullpen at his back. How about Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, both letting a scoreless inning, and Hunter Barco, who's been rough to start off the season, 2 1/3 innings scoreless as the Pirates left 13 men on base, the Orioles left 9 men on base. So lots of scoring opportunities squandered there for the Red Sox. They squandered an opportunity. They fall to the San Diego Padres by a count of 3-2 as you had Mr. Andy Vasquez be able to give you a relatively good start for Vasquez. He goes out there for 6 innings, gives up just 1 run. From there, Adri Morejon gives up a run in an inning, but Jeremiah Estrada, Mason Miller, they close it over with a scoreless inning apiece, and Connolly Early just not long for this game. 2 runs allowed in 4 innings. Bullpen from there was solid. Aroldis Chapman did give up a run in the 9th inning that turned out to be the difference as Lorban Laureano, RBI single in the 9th, wins it, but Zach Kelly, Justin Slayton both on a scoreless inning. You had Danny Kalum give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Ryan Watson, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, but for the Red Sox, the offense not getting going. 0 of 5 with men in scoring position in this one, and no offense for the Walker Texas Rangers. 2-0. They fall to the Cincinnati Reds as Rhett Lauder making some noise. 6 scoreless innings. Graham Ashcraft, Tony Santin, Emilio Pagan all end a scoreless inning. And for Coomer Rocker, honestly not a bad start here. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Jalen Beeks, Jacob Latz, Tyler Alexander, and Carter Baumler all end a scoreless inning. But for the Rangers, they got 4 total hits in this game. They leave 8 men on base, so that was a little bit less than savory for them. Also less than savory was the way that things wrapped up for the Miami Marlins as they got up in this game by a count of 4-0 on the Yankees, but then the Yankees were able to pound their way to victory, 9-7 the final. Ryan Weathers tried to weather the storm, giving up 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Camilo Duvall does give up 2 runs in a third of an inning, but Paul Blackburn walks the plank for 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Tim Hill, scoreless inning. Fernando Cruz, Brent Hendrick, both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. David Benner does poop the Benner, give it up a run in an inning, but enough to be able to get the job done. And for Max Meyer, not a bad performance here. Gives up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings, including a home run to Cody Bellinger, first of the campaign. inning, but from there, Andrew Nardi gives up a run in a third of an inning. Anthony Bender gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning. John King, he was the king of giving a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Calvin Fauché gives up an unearned run as Otto Lopez had a bit of an error out there in the field, and Michael Peterson did not live up to his name. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, give it up in his inning of work. The Tampa Bay Rays found a way to be able to get the job done out there in Minnesota. How about a 7-1 winner for them? For Minnesota, not what they were hoping for out of Mick Abel. It just has not put it together at the big league level quite yet. 4 runs given up in 4 innings. From there, you did have Anthony Banda and Cody Lawyerson both give you a scoreless inning. Taylor Rogers, though, he had a rough go of it as he gives up 2 runs in his inning work. Zach Kent, he comes in for 2 innings. He gives up a run of his own for the Tampa Bay Rays. They go 5 of 14 with men in scoring position. And Steven Matz was great. 8 punch-outs, 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Cole Sulzer, 2 scoreless innings. Mason Engler, a scoreless inning of his own. And then you saw the Arizona Diamondbacks find a way to persevere against the Atlanta Braves. 2-1 the final as for Michael Soroka. 5 innings pitched. He gives up 1 run. Bullpen from there was rock solid. Jonathan Loaiza, Juan Barrio, Paul Sewald, and Taylor Clark all in a scoreless inning. Bryce Elder did not look elderly. 8 punch-outs in 7 innings. He gives up 2 unearned runs. They were on his own throwing error, so he was responsible for them. But still, nice performance there. Tyler Kinley, a scoreless inning, and the Diamondbacks leave 1 man on base. They go 1 of 3 with runners in scoring position. That was enough on this day for them to be able to get the job done. You had Guardians versus Cubs get postponed, so we'll have a double dip on Sunday for that. But you had no runs scored for the Giants. 9-0. The Mets, they do get the job done here. Clay Holmes, he was rock solid with 7 scoreless innings. From there, Tobias Myers, 2 scoreless innings, and Landon Roop, well, he gives up 7 runs, 5 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings. From there, you did have Tyrone Taylor get his first home run of the campaign off of Brian Barucki, who gives up a home run in 1 1/3 innings. Keaton Wynn, a inning out of the bullpen, he gives up a run. Caleb Killian was able to lend a scoreless inning, and it got to the point where Christian Goss, that is the backup second baseman, he had to come in to hurl a scoreless inning. Not what you want to see there, but this is exactly what you want to see if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies. A W on the board. 2-1, they take down the Colorado Rockies. They give up just 1 run in Coors. Probably wanted to score a little bit more than 2 runs, but Jesus Luzardo, 1 run allowed in 6 2/3 innings, punched out 11. He looked great in this one. Brian Keller, Yohan Duran, both give you a scoreless inning. Jose Alvarado out of the bullpen scoreless, and Brendan Bernardino served as the opener in this game, gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Jimmy Erget, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Chase Dollander, he came in as a bulk guy. He had a rough rookie season, looked much better coming out of the bullpen. 1 run allowed in 4 1/3 innings, punched out 6. From there, Jane Hill, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Juan Mejia, Victor Vodnik, they're both able to give you a scoreless inning, but too little, too late out there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, we are through about a week and a half of the season now, and we have been noticing a very equal split between overs and unders. 59 overs to 58 unders. I believe that we have had 4 pushes along the way as well. Favorites have been doing very well on the money line, 71 and 46. That is a 60.7% hit rate on favorites. We have seen 13 of those favorites not cover the run line, but all in all, they've been having a nice start to the season. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend William Boor of Action Network right here on the Baseball Betting Show. It's myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got William Boor aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he is very hard at work, taking a look at a little bit of everything, as he does it all over there at Action Network, and he does so also well as one of their main deputy editors. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the letter W, his last name Boor, Boor, all together. And William, always appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on and talk baseball and talk betting with you.
Absolutely. And William, we're now about a week and a half through the baseball season, which means that obviously we're able to make so many assumptions of these teams, and how the standings are looking right now is exactly how it's going to be at the end of the season. Obviously, I say that very much tongue-in-cheek, but that said, how have you taken a look at the first week and a half of the season, where the major buzz has been ABS and how that's been impacting games?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You touched on something there with the slight bit of sarcasm. Baseball betting is what it is, but it's so tough to not overreact. You have thoughts on teams entering the season, and if they don't live up to those thoughts, or if they exceed or underperform, we've seen, 7 games, 8 games. The sample size is so small but it's also all you have to go off. So sometimes it's like, oh, shoot, should I abandon this team or what should I do? And usually the answer is just be patient. But I know that that's sometimes so hard to do.
Yep, it certainly is. And it is going to be interesting to see what we get moving forward out of some of these teams. And has there been a team or two that, I mean, obviously it's a small sample size, but has really impressed you? And maybe you've seen a little bit more out of them than you were expecting?
The Marlins being 5-2 is probably more than I was expecting. But to your point about sample size, I don't know if I'm necessarily in on the Marlins to finish second in the NL East. Like, it's been nice, it's been impressive, but I'm not going to pick the Marlins to finish above the Phillies or finish above the Mets. But maybe this is something where I tuck in my back pocket and I'm like, hey, they're not an auto fade. I don't just, bet the other team every time. Maybe there's a little bit more to this team than you thought. But, it's definitely not enough to like invest in futures or anything on that or anything like that on them. But it is something to be like, okay, hey, keep this in the back pocket that you don't just take whoever's playing against the Marlins and throw them into a money line parlay with whoever's playing the Rockies or something like that.
Yep, absolutely. I'm right there with you on the Marlins. They look to be much more respectable this season, so that's been a team that's been standing out to me, as William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And when it comes to this early part of the season, what are some of the things that you do try to look at to try to be able to gain some edges? Because now we've got a sample size. It's not a big sample size, but we have a small sample size in baseball right now. Are you still looking a little bit more at like 2025, 2024 numbers, or what is that turning point really when you feel like the data becomes a little bit more real and a little bit more reliable?
Yeah, probably the end of April is when I'll probably fully shift into 2026 mode as opposed to leaning on a lot of 2025 data. Right now, it's just kind of noticing stuff and taking notes. I'm not going to make huge adjustments 10 games into the season, positive or negative. This is kind of a time where you wait and see. You don't buy futures, you're not hedging out of futures, you're not necessarily like changing your unit size because if you're hot or you're cold, it doesn't really matter 10 days in, but it's a matter of just kind of taking notes and just logging things on teams as a whole, on players, because the other thing too is a lot of betting on baseball comes down to, the starting pitcher. And not only have we, only seen 8-9 games for these teams, that means if we're talking about the pitcher, we've seen them once, maybe twice. So you've got 9-10 innings of a starting pitcher. That doesn't tell you anything good or bad. So there's just a lot of patience to be said, but these stats obviously count. So if you want to, if you wanted to look at some alt lines and say, hey, the Blue Jays kind of have blown some games against the White Sox, this might come back to bite them. Maybe you want to do a little bit more on like the Yankees or someone else on the AL East because you think the Blue Jays kind of wasted a couple games. And if that division comes down to 1 or 2 games, that's something to look at. But I probably am staying pretty light on everything 9 games in.
Yep, I don't blame you there, as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And one thing that has stood out to me, the Yankees are off to a really nice start to the season. Entered into Saturday 6-1. We shall see how that Saturday game goes. But that said, how do you take a look at a bunch where, with the Yankees, we have seen them get off to quite a few good starts, and then it feels like inevitably Aaron Judge goes out of the lineup for 2 to 3 weeks, everything goes down the toilet bowl in July and or August. But how do you take a look at the Yankees, and do you think that this could be a team that once again, much like they've done in the past, presents good value here in April and May?
Yeah, the Yankees, I think we knew that their roster was good. Obviously, there's a lot of talent on that. And their win total was, hovering around 91, 92, which suggests a good team. The issue is not so much necessarily the Yankees, but I think Toronto, Baltimore, Tampa, Boston, they're all either sub 500 or Toronto's 4-4 right now. I think we all expect those other teams to be better. So while the Yankees are off to a hot start, when you get into those division games, things are just going to be a lot tougher. So I don't necessarily think, look, the Yankees are, you said 6-1. They're not going to win 85% of their games. They might, but that's going to be really tough. It's one of those things, hot start. I think they're going to cool off just naturally. Run differential plus 24 right now. But I think that's more about everyone else. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get worse. It's just the ebbs and flows of baseball seasons where teams can't, win 5 of every 6 games or 6 of every 7 games. That's just obviously a ridiculously hard pace to keep.
Yep, it certainly is. And with the New York Yankees, they have been very hot starters in the past, so we'll see if they're going to be able to keep this up moving forward. And when it comes to Sunday, we do have ourselves a lot of intriguing games and some tight money line games as well. Like, I take a look at this Giants versus Mets game, and I think that one is fun. Right now, the Giants are about a -120, -130 favorite with a total of 7.5. How do you take a look at this with Logan Webb having a little bit of a struggle through his first two starts of the season? But you know as well as I do, he's been very reliable in San Francisco, and though Kodai Senga had a good ERA last year, it felt like he was quite fortunate with the walks, and I feel like this could be a time where a Giants lineup that has just had a rough start to the season is able to bust out a little bit more.
This is, I think, probably the perfect game for everything you've asked me about so far. I'm on the Giants because of what you said with the small sample size and me looking back on the past couple of years. I'm betting on the Giants because of the Logan Webb that I've seen in 2024 and 2025. The Logan Webb, who currently has an ERA north of 7, I am assuming that is going to come down, and then again 5 days from now, and then again 5 days after that. This is where I'm fully betting on a track record of a player versus what I've seen this season.
Yep, I'm right there with you. That is what I'm going to be banking on as well with Logan Webb. Just time and time again gets the job done at home. If this were a road game, maybe I wouldn't be banking on that positivity as much, but Logan Webb at home, he always finds a way to be able to get it done. So I am right there with you on that one. And then I think that this is interesting as well because we remember last year, Sacramento was just a bandbox for a whole bunch of home runs and everything like that. Now we've got Astros versus the Athletics, where the Astros put up a crooked number, actually a double figure number, on Saturday. On Friday, it was the A's doing all of the banging. Right now, that total is 10. And with Lance McCullers, he's about a -120 favorite. This one I think is so intriguing because McCullers not just missed 2024, or not just 2023, but 2024 as well. Had that rough 2025, and now he's looking to be able to regain that form. And Jacob Lopez, I actually think, is a really good up-and-coming pitcher for the Athletics.
Yeah, I think the tricky part, I'm with you on Lopez. The other tricky part early in the season is one thing I will look at for current season data is looking up game logs, not necessarily for results, but seeing how many pitches someone throw and see how deep they can go into the game because bullpens change a lot. And, stretched out later in the season, if someone throws well, they're going to, throw into the 6th or the 7th. Early in the season, regardless of how someone's throwing, they might only go 4 because of the way teams have it set up. That makes this game a little bit tricky in my mind. I'm probably on Astros or over. If I do anything, I'm not there yet. Right now, it's a pass for me, but when I dig into it a little more, maybe if numbers move in the morning, I think Astros and over would be my 2 leans on that game.
Absolutely, as we do have William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I do think that this one is fun as well, because I remember you worked over at MLB Pipeline for quite some time, and these were 2 pitchers I'm sure that you got to see a lot of in your last few years over there. Chase Burns goes for the Reds, Jack Leiter for the Rangers, 2 up-and-coming pitchers with the Rangers being about a -120, -125 favorite. How do you take a look at this matchup? Because I think Burns has so much upside, but at the same time, he's yet to quite be able to put it together at the big league level. And we remember Jack Leiter 2 years ago was awful, took great strides forward last year, and it's going to be interesting to see if he continues that progression this season.
Yeah, I'm with you, and especially like you said at MLB Pipeline, we were all over these people. Huge Jack Leiter hype when he was coming up. I have seen a little more from Leiter, at least consistently, in his MLB time. I know Burns, as you mentioned, huge upside. Also, I really like the fact that the Rangers are at home. They're hitting a little bit better so far this year. Obviously, Cincinnati's offense, you got some names in there. De La Cruz, they've got a park on their own that scores like crazy. So at the end of the year, their offensive numbers are going to be fine simply from playing 81 games there. But if you're just looking at so far this year, I mean, the Rangers have scored 13 more runs than the Reds. Obviously, a small sample size, 13 runs over the course of a season. Who cares? 13 runs over 7 games, I think, is somewhat significant. So that, plus what I've seen from Leiter, I would definitely lean with the Rangers.
Yep, with the Rangers, they are a bunch I think is going to be much better offensively than they were a season ago as well. They had a lot of guys that are injured, though. We'll say Jock Peterson might just be actually washed. He's not been great over the last few seasons, to say the least, but for guys not named Jock Peterson, do expect some positivity there. And then we do have ourselves a great slate on Sunday, William, as we actually have 16 games with that double dip between the Cubs and the Guardians. Anything else that you really have your eye on, whether it be from a betting standpoint or just a team or a pitcher that you want to watch?
We've hit the bets, the Giants. I don't have a ton of action so far, but pitching wise, I want to see what Brandon Pfaadt does from Arizona. Solid at the end of last season, but one start this year, 5 runs in 6 innings. That's obviously not great, but it's one start. So I don't necessarily care, but I don't want to back him at this point. I just want to see what's happening. Same with Luis Castillo of the Mariners. I just kind of want to see where he's at. So those are 2 games I'll either be watching or at the very least box scores I'll be checking at the end of the day to just kind of see how they looked and what happened on that front.
Yep, I think that those are going to be very critical pitchers to watch, and going to be interesting to see what the Braves do as well. As we're recording this, don't know if they're going to start Martin Perez or Jose Suarez. I know that they had those 2 guys piggybacking in their first, shall we say, appearance of the season, and I know that you, William, are doing such great work over at Action Network, looking at a little bit of everything. You guys are all dialed up for the title game that's happening in college basketball over the next few days. You're dialed in on baseball. NFL draft is going to be coming into our lives, and so much more. So, all the good people at home know it's all tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you just mentioned a lot of sporting events. We also have the Masters next week as well. So many things to check out. You can follow me on Twitter at WBoor, WBOOR, and in the Action Network app at William Boor _, all one word. But don't just follow me. Follow everything me and my coworkers are doing. A ton of stuff on actionnetwork.com. If you download the app, ton of betting tools, ton of content, podcasts, YouTube videos, anything you need that we can do, and we can help everyone hopefully become a better and make some money.
Absolutely. And William, he's doing such great work on so many different fronts, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So a big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by William Boor. He does such great work over at Action Network, looking at a little bit of everything, does a great job on the baseball front and so much more, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GUnit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, the American League games in time order, and then the Interleague games in time order, with the lone exception being we've got a double dip now today between the Guardians and the Cubs. I will just do both of those games together for simplicity standpoint. So we're going to get things started here with 901, 902. The Dodgers are on the road against the Washington Nationals as Hiroki Sasaki goes for the Dodgers, and one Mr. Foster Griffin is on the bump for the Nationals. Nationals between plus 168 to plus 179 underdogs, minus $2 to minus 220. That number on the Dodgers, 9 is a total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. Unders between even and minus 110. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Dodgers, that's anywhere between minus 122 to a minus 130. And I'm willing to go up to a minus 126. So up to about a minus 125 on that run line for Hiroki Sasaki. Obviously, has yet to be able to find it as a starter. Was electric coming out of the bullpen last season in that postseason run for the LA Dodgers. But first start out, gave up 1 run in 4 innings. The length is not quite there as he's had some command issues since coming up to the big league level. But you can tell that this stuff is certainly coming along for the ride. And for Foster Griffin, he actually had a very nice start here for the Washington Nationals. One of their young guys that I actually feel like might be able to provide a little bit of upside, as if I'm not mistaken, he spent a little bit of time out there in the Nippon Baseball League in Japan. He did a nice job not giving up a lot of homers out there after he just wasn't able to find his footing at the big league level, and has come back in that first start. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings with 5 punch-outs. Swing and miss stuff has looked relatively solid for him, but that said, now you go up against an LA Dodgers lineup that is just absolutely locked and loaded. They had had a little bit of a rough go of it in their first two series, but they've really been able to find it out here in Washington, D.C. The Nationals just really not providing too much of a speed bump to the team, as you've got Shohei Ohtani, who really hasn't, I don't think, gone yard at all this season, but you know that's coming. He's always good for 40-plus home runs. Andy Paz is already up to 3 home runs, and he's typically hitting between 7th or 8th for the team. Will Smith last year provided a 400 on base. Freddie Freeman, he had 4 RBI yesterday. Mookie Betts, he's had a little bit of a rough go of it. Really, since the back half of last season, when he gets it going, this team becomes all the more fearsome. They pick up Kyle Tucker like 1 through 9 against righties, against lefties. These guys are absolute monsters. And then on the flip side for the Nationals, they've gotten a little bit of offense here in the series. James Wood has had a rough season, 30 home runs last season. He's hitting just a $111 with a 200 on base right now, but Luis Garcia has been hitting above a 300. Same with Dallin Lyle. You've got some nice young guys for this team. Brady House has been in and out of the lineup when he's been out there, though. He's been hitting about a 300. CJ Abrams is a guy that's capable of moving the line. He's got 3 home runs thus far, so the Nationals look to have a little bit of upside there. This bullpen is just absolutely terrible, though. PJ Poulin was relatively solid for the bullpen last year, and Brad Lord is a solid long guy, but they had to use him and so many others yesterday. Cole Henry provides north of a 4 ERA. You just don't want to be in a spot where you want to be utilizing Ciano Perez whatsoever. And then on the flip side for the LA Dodgers, I know that Tanner Scott had a rough year last year, but 2 years ago, he was one of the better relievers in all of baseball. Ex-Vesia, Jack Dreher, they're coming off of having a sub-3 25 ERA last season. Edwin Diaz is now your closer. I think they get Dodgers domination here. So I told 9.3, so I like the over and the run line here of the Dodgers up to a minus 126, 903, 904 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Rockies, as Taijuan Walker is on the bump for the Phillies, and Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for Colorado. Colorado setting between plus 136 to plus 146 underdogs, and between minus 162 to a minus 170 is the number on the Phillies. 11 is the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even. Seeing an 11.5 out there as well. That under is minus 120, the over is even. If we can get a plus 148 or higher, and I'm starting to see that popping up in some spots, I will be willing to take a shot here on the Colorado Rockies money line. That is just a fate of Taijuan Walker. Like, my gosh, this guy got absolutely destroyed by the Washington Nationals in his first start out last season, and you can look at the ERA from last year and say that he got better, 4.08 ERA, but he was still providing last year a 5.07 fielding independent. He was still giving up 1.5 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, while only getting 6.3 punch-outs per 9. I have no faith in him whatsoever. Now you've got Tomoyuki Sugano, who's a pitcher contact guy in Coors, and that's probably not going to go well for him either. As for our good friend and Mr. Sugano, last season, 4.64 ERA with a 5.36 fielding independent with the Orioles, and he was giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings with Baltimore as his own ballpark. So, yeah, that's not great to say the least. So I'm going to be in on the over. I saw my total at 11.7, and when it comes to this Philadelphia Phillies lineup, you certainly have had these guys be able to get much more online here in Coors, as they had that 7th spot in the first inning in that game on Friday, and I mean, it's been a little bit up and down for Bryce Harper, but now he's got a pair of home runs to his credit. Kyle Schwarber has been all or nothing this year, 3 home runs and 5 total hits entering into Saturday, but I feel like he's going to get that iron out. Adolis Garcia has actually moved line for this team, and then Justin Crawford, Brandon Marsh in the outfield, not providing a ton of power, but they're finding a way on base. Meanwhile, for the Colorado Rockies, CJ Rumfield, as a young guy, has been hitting above a 300. Hunter Goodman last year, he was very good. He provided 25 plus home runs, moved the line for the team, and you've got so many guys that they provide an on-base percentage nearly 100 points higher at home rather than away from home. Jordan Beck was one of those guys. Ezekiel Tovar has always been better at home. I do think that you're going to get more out of the likes of a Kyle Karros, and for the Rockies, the bullpen isn't the world's worst. You've got quite a few guys that provided a sub-4.25 ERA last season, like Jay Nill, Jimmy Harrogate, Victor Vodnik. Juan Mejia has a little bit of upside, so I mean, those guys aren't bad. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Yohan Duran is one of the better closers in all baseball, but no longer do they have Matt Strahm. Brad Keller has been shaky since coming on over from the Cubs. Jose Alvarado, after that drug suspension last year, just has not been the same guy, so if I can get a plus 148 or higher, could be in on the Rockies on the money line, and like the over, semi-total and an 11.7. 905, 906. It's the Mets. They're going to be on the road against the Giants. Logan Webb goes for the Giants, and you've got Kodai Senga on the bump for the Metropolitans. And for the Mets, they're between even money to plus 102, minus 115 to minus 120. That number on San Francisco with a total of 7.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Want to go to a minus 131 on this Giants money line. Logan Webb has always just been a completely different pitcher at home rather than away from home, and of shaky first few starts of the season for Logan Webb. He went out there in that start against the New York Yankees, had just one absolutely atrocious inning, but that said, I still think that he's going to be able to figure it out. You just take a a look at what he's done throughout his career in San Francisco, and he's been masterful. 2.92 career ERA, giving up only about 0.5 home runs per 9 innings, closer to about 0.7, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings away from him, so it's not like he's atrocious there, but that ERA does go up to 3.96, so something that you do need to be cautious of. And for Kodai Senga, he had posted up a nice low ERA last season at a 3.02, but had a 4.12 fielding dependent. He was giving up 4.4 walks per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff was down. I do think that it's going to be a little bit better this year because he was coming off of injury last season, but it is a Mets bullpen that's a little bit revamped as well. You've got Edwin Diaz no longer there. Now, Devin Williams is starting to look like the Devin Williams that we all know and love, and I do think that Luke Weaver is going to be very good in this bullpen, but you still do have to have a few question marks with these guys. Brooks Raley is a guy that I like as well, but when you get into more of the long guys, it's a bit of a roll of the dice, and the Giants last year were a top 4 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, they do lose some of those guys. They picked up Jose Buto, but he's currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. Ryan Walker did supply north of a 4 ERA last season, but Keaton Wynn is a good long guy. Eric Miller is a guy that I like as well, and it does feel like the Giants are starting to find it a little bit more at the plate. Rafael Devers has never been quite what the Giants were hoping for quite yet, but I do think that he's going to be able to give you a little bit more. Matt Chapman is just hot and cold. He's either one of the best hitters in all baseball or he's one of the worst. That all depends upon the day. William Adames does not move the line, but he's able to give you some power. You got Gerard Encarnacion, who I think has a little bit of upside to him. They pick up Harrison Bader in the offseason. He, Jungle Lee, Loy Ramos have gotten off to a rough start in the outfield, but these are all guys that I think are going to hit a 250 or greater towards the back half of the season, so I do think that there's a little bit of upside there. I think that this is going to be a well-pitched game, so by total 7.1, do like the under, and for the Giants, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 130 on the money line. 907, 908 on the card. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they are going to be playing us the Atlanta Braves. It is currently to be determined for the Braves. Brandon Pfaadt looks a battle for the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a game that is presently off the board. Now, what the Braves did the last time they were in this spot is they sort of had Jose Suarez and Martin Perez piggyback off of one another, and that is a handicap here. Whether you get Suarez or Perez, I did set the Diamondbacks at a minus 118 on the money line, so we'll go up to a minus 117 there, plus 119 or greater looking at the Braves, and then I set a total of a 9.4, so 9 or less in on the over 9.5 or higher the under. Now, I do think that out of Perez along with Jose Suarez, that Perez is a better pitcher. He always starts off the year really strong. Like, I have no idea why. He dealt with a lot of injuries last year when he was with the Chicago White Sox, but even last year with the White Sox, like this guy prior to the All-Star break always has a sub-3 ERA. You absolutely love what he's able to provide there. He doesn't have a ton of swing and miss stuff, and that's where Jose Suarez comes in. Jose Suarez can be that change of pace guy, whether that be before or after Perez. Like last year with the Braves, he was actually posting up a 1.86 ERA, albeit it was 19.1 innings, but he showed a little bit of upside there for his career. 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, does give up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Suarez is only 28 years old. He's been with the Angels for much of his career, and they brought him up very, very young. I think that actually just wrecked his development in general, but still, I do think that there's a little bit of upside with these two guys. I personally do think that Perez is right now the better pitcher, but Suarez might have a little bit more of the upside. And for Brandon Pfaadt, last year it was just miserable for him. He was giving up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Now, if you look at the fielding independent numbers, it does show that he was quite a bit unlucky last season, because last season he posted up over a 5 ERA, and somehow, someway, Brandon Pfaadt, despite the fact that he had the ERA that he did, he was applying a 5.25. He had a 13-9 record, but he was only giving out 1.9 walks per 9 innings, 7.5 strikeouts per 9. He was down with that regard, and it's a Diamondbacks bullpen that is all sorts of awful right now. Kevin Ginkel is actually relatively okay in this bullpen, but man, when you get into some of these long guys like a Juan Murillo and company, it's just not good. Paul Sewald looks just completely washed at this point, but the good news is the Arizona Diamondbacks, they were able to supply the boom. This team was 4th in the league in terms of runs per game last season. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, they're always good for 25 plus home runs, and the Marte parte gives you over a 350 on base. Anthony Del Castro, I think, has a little bit of upside as well. Gabriel Moreno, Geraldo Perdomo, these are guys that hit above a 270, and they've got a young guy that has already hit for a pair of homers in Jose Fernandez that looks to be the real deal. And for the Atlanta Braves, they had that 17-run outburst a few days ago. Mauricio Dubon has been hitting really well for this team. Austin Riley, if they can get him back to where he was prior to the injury last year, that's going to be big. You've had Drake Baldwin be able to do a nice job supplying 3 home runs already. It's been a rough year for Ronald Acuna thus far, but he's going to get back online, and if Matt Olson can get back to where he was a few seasons ago, he had that 50-plus home run season in 2023, that'll be huge. And for the Braves, you do have Tyler Kinley, who's had a sub-250 ERA since they traded for him from the Rockies. Rockies. Dylan Lee is pretty solid in this bullpen. Robert Suarez I thought was a nice pickup, but what are you going to be able to get out of Horacio Iglesias? So minus 115 or better looking at the Diamondbacks, plus 118 or better the Braves, and then 9 or less like the over 9.5 or higher, the under. 909, 910 on the card. It is the Rays. They are going to be on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for the Twins, and you've got Nick Martinez on the bump for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a underdog here of between minus 102 to a minus 105, minus 115 is that number on Minnesota with a total of 8. The over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I like the over. I did set my total at an 8.3. Simeon Woods Richardson is like the textbook just average pitcher in baseball. You take a look at what he did last year, nothing that wows you, nothing off-putting. 4.04 ERA, 1.4 home runs, 3.7 walks per 9 innings, 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. Like, he's a very, very milquetoast pitcher. Nothing that really excites you, nothing that has you way too far down. For Nick Martinez, always does a great job in terms of his command. Last season gave up just 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but only about 6.3 punch-outs per 9 innings, so he gives up a lot of contact, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings this season ago, and this is a Twins lineup that I actually am liking because you've got Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis now fully healthy, so that's really going to be a lot of the cause. Lucas Shaw, he was able to hit for like a 300 in a small sample size last season. They need it because you do have some of these guys like a Cody Clemens, Matt Wallner last year that provided 20 plus home runs, but they were hitting below a 230. Brooks Lee has been a little bit inconsistent throughout his career, but I think that he's got some upside. Liking what I'm seeing out of Ryan Jeffers right now as well, and for the Rays last year, they were in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run scoring, and Jonathan Aranda just does a great job in terms of move a line. Last year, over a 300 batting average with some power. Yandy Diaz, 25 plus home runs. He was providing over a 380 on base. They've got Chandler Simpson, who's one of the best base stealers in all of baseball, and I like the pickup of Ben Williamson. Last year, he was sitting above a 250 with some good RBI with the Seattle Mariners, so I like that upside with him. They're starting to figure out the catcher spot as well, and then obviously Junior Caminero, 44 home runs last season, but this Rays bullpen is just all sorts of terrible right now. Like, Griffin Jax is getting completely jacked up. Brian Baker, ever since they acquired him, he just has not been great. He was actually solid with the Baltimore Orioles a few seasons ago in a Rays uniform. He's got well above a 4.50 ERA. Mason Englert has not been trustworthy whatsoever, and it's not to say that the Minnesota Twins are the Mona Lisa Vitos of bullpen pitching or anything like that, but Anthony Banda was pretty solid with the Dodgers. Cody Funderburk is a guy that's able to supply a sub-4 ERA. Justin Topa is pretty presentable as well, and I do think that having Buxton along with Royce Lewis healthy, even though Buxton has had a little bit of a tough time with power thus far this season, that they are going to be able to find a way to get the job done here. So I told it at 8.3 with that Rays bullpen. Do like the over. And for the Twins, willing to lay up to a minus 125 on this money line. 9-11, 9-12. It's the Blue Jays on the road against the White Sox as Davis Martin is on the bump for the Southsiders, and Eric Lauer goes for Toronto. Toronto between minus 143 to minus 148 favorites, plus 119 to plus 126 at number on Chicago. If you're looking to lay run half with the Blue Jays, that's between about plus 115 to plus 123, and total on this game, it is an 8 to an 8.5 on the 8.5, unders minus 120, the overs even on the 8, overs between minus 110 to a minus 115, unders between minus 105 to a minus 110, and with the White Sox, I need at least a plus 166 as I take a shot here. I'm going to be willing to go with the run line with the Blue Jays. I was willing to take pretty much anything of even money or better. Eric Lauer was very solid for this Blue Jays team last year, 8.8 strikeouts, so about 2.2 walks per 9 innings, 3.180 ERA, closer to a 385 fielding independent. He did give up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, but just a really nice reborn sort of season for him, and I do think that he's going to be able to continue this moving forward. Meanwhile, for Davis Martin, 4.10 ERA, but a 4.64 fielding independent last season. Not a lot of swing and miss with only about 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.3 home runs per 9. I do think that Flagler Jr., after last year, he had just 23 regular season home runs. He's going to be able to figure it out. That postseason was absolutely massive for them. They've had some nice pickups here in the offseason as well. They bring over a guy, Kazuma Okamoto, who's already got a pair of bombs. He's been able to do a solid job moving the line. George Springer is up to a pair of home runs this season. He's been having a tough time reaching base. You know that's going to be coming sooner rather than later. Dalton Varsho last year was averaging a home run every 12 or so at bats as well. And Andres Gimenez, after a pretty miserable season last year, he's been able to do a nice job finding a way on base. And for the White Sox, I do think that there's upside with this lineup. Mutaka Murakami is already up to 4 home runs, so he has been incredible. Lennon Sosa's off off to a rough start, and he was one of their better hitters last season, so do think that he's going to be able to help out. Edgar Quijano was hitting above a 270 last year. Colson Montgomery, 20-plus home runs, did an okay job in terms of move line, and for the White Sox, this was one of the best teams in terms of not striking out in the second half of the season last year, albeit it was a lot of weak contact, but that's relatively good for this team. White Sox, though, they did have to use up a lot of that bullpen yesterday. Jordan Hicks or Anthony Dominguez both used for 19-plus pitches, and it's just hard to trust in these guys. Jordan Leisure always posts up north of a 4 ERA. Sean Newcomb should not be on a big league roster right now. Chris Murphy, I actually think has some upside. He was pretty solid with the Boston Red Sox last season, but man, this is just not a great bullpen. And for the Blue Jays, this bullpen is leaving a lot to be desired as well. Brandon Fisher is solid, but he was thrown for 25 pitches yesterday. Brandon Little has been coming up very, very little thus far this season. I know that they've had quite a few injuries with regards to that bullpen as well. Yimi Garcia currently being out of the fold is a little bit less than tremendous, but Mason Flaherty is pretty solid. I wouldn't be surprised if they utilize Lazaro Estrada as a little bit of a long guy, so do think that you're going to be able to get some runs in this game. Semi-total at 8.3, so at the 8, I do like the over and the Toronto Blue Jays here at plus money on the run line. 9-13, 9-14, you've got the Houston Astros on the road against the Athletics as Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the Athletics and Lance McCullers Jr. is on the bump for Houston. Houston is finding themselves as anywhere between a minus 108 to a minus 125 favorite, between plus 102 to minus 108, then around the Athletics. 9.5 to 10 is the total on the 9.5, over is minus 125, the under is plus 105 on the 10, over and under both at minus 110, and made a total of a 9.7. I do like the under with Lance McCullers Jr. Last year. It was just absolutely awful for him. Missed the entire 2023 and 24 campaign, so nice to see him back out there, but 6.51 ERA, 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 6.3 walks per 9 innings. Looked very good in his first start of the season, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. I need to see more before I believe that he is fully back, because he wasn't just out for 1 year, he was out for 2 years, so that's a big giant issue. And then for one Mr. Jacob Lopez, this guy had a really nice year last year. He actually had a 4.08 ERA overall, down to a 2.64 in Sacramento. Very few pitchers were more successful in Sacramento rather than away from Sacramento. He was one of the few. 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. Did give up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and in this ballpark, that is a little bit of an issue. And you've got an Astros lineup that is very veteran-laden, but Jose Altuve is off to a relatively nice start to the season. Yordan Alvarez, 3+ home runs already for him this season. We saw the team put up a nice solid 11 spot yesterday. You've got a team that does a nice job in terms of not striking out, albeit sometimes they don't necessarily draw the walks that you'd like, but Jeremy Pena at the top does a nice job. He hit for darn near 300 last season. Joey Looper Fido is looking very strong for the team as well. You always have to wonder about Yenier Diaz because he draws no walks whatsoever, but he's pretty solid in terms of being a contact guy. And for the Athletics, the offense has really been rough this season. Other than the game that we saw on Friday, it's been tough for them, but Shea Langoliers, Shea has banged for 5 home runs thus far this season, and you know that these guys are going to be able to pick it up. You've got Tyler Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson, Brent Rooker, so many guys hitting at 215 or lower with no power. Nick Kurtz as well. These guys are going to be able to find it as the season goes along, and I did like the pickup of Jeff McNeil in the offseason. Now for the Athletics, this is not a great bullpen. They traded away their bullpen at the trade deadline last season. Mark Leiter Jr., Scott Barlow are veterans that are relatively washed. Justin Sterner had about a 4 ERA along with Elvis Alvarado last year. They might be able to give you a little bit of something, and for the Houston Astros, traditionally this is a solid bullpen, but they're dealing with injuries. Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader, 2 of their main guys currently on the injured list, along with Angel de los Santos. Roderi Munoz is a terrible long guy. The Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, sub 350 ERAs last season. AJ Blueball is a good long guy, and Stephen Okert gets the job done as well. But that said, I do think that the Athletics do a nice job getting to McCullers, who I think is in for a little bit of a better year this year. So set a total of 9.7 at the 10. I like the under, but made the A's the minus 125 favorite. I'm going to take them on the money line. 9.15, 9.16. The Mariners are going to be on the road against the Angels, as you've got one Mr. Luis Castillo on the bump for the Mariners, and Orion Johnson is on the bump for the Angels. Total on this game between 9 and 9.5. On the 9, the over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105 for Seattle. Minus 166 to minus 171 is at money line. Plus 140 to plus 145 on the Angels. If you're looking to lay a run off with the Mariners, it's right around about minus 105 to minus 110, and I'm willing to go up to a minus 110 with that Mariners run line. For Luis Castillo, not quite the same pitcher away from home rather than at home last year, and he did see a little bit of a fall off with his swing and miss stuff. For Luis Castillo last year, he had a career low in terms of strikeouts per 9 innings, but he also had a career best in terms of walks per 9 innings, 2.3 walks, 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings last season. And for Seattle, it is such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, so he did very much benefit from that. Last season, he was posting up an ERA of a 4.71 away from home compared to 2.60 at home, and Away from home, he was giving up more like 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. That is going to be a little bit of an issue going up against an Angels team that was in the top 5 in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis last season, but they do lose Taylor Ward and a few others from the offseason. Jorge Soler is starting to look just a little bit washed at this point. That's not great, to say the least. Joe Adell, 30-plus home runs last season, but doesn't really do a great job in terms of moving the line. Nolan Schunel and Zach Neto do, though. Logan O'Hoppe, he's been hitting a little bit better to start the season, but last year, a 258 on base. He was able to supply 19 home runs, but man, you're going to need to get a little bit more there. And the Angels' bullpen is not great. I actually did like the pickups of Drew Pomeranz and Joey Lucchesi, but Pomeranz is having a miserable start to the season. Ryan Zefrian had well north of a 4 ERA last year. Jordan Romano was posting up an ERA of 8, and he just looks absolutely fried. And for the Seattle Mariners, this is one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, both of these guys are a really good 1-2 punch in the 8th and 9th inning. Gabe Spire had a sub-3 ERA last year. Edward Barzardo is rock solid, and have to figure that some of these bats are going to be able to get online as well. As for Cal Raleigh, he entered into Saturday without a home run thus far this season and just not finding a way to be able to reach base. You know that that's going to turn around. Luke Raley is actually hit for 3 home runs thus far. Brendan Donovan, a pair of bombs. He's giving you over a 400 on base. Was always rock solid with the St. Louis Cardinals. Randy Arozarena is moving the line, and Julio Rodriguez just always starts slow. I'm not sure why, but he just does. I do think that they're going to be able to figure it out a little bit against a guy in Ryan Johnson that he wasn't even good in the bullpen last year, and now they're trusting in him in a starting role. I really question this from these Angels. Like, he had a 7.36 ERA last season coming out of the bullpen with 2.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. First start gets absolutely lambasted for 6 runs and 3 1/3 innings. I think that this is going to be a failed experiment for them. So I said a total of an 8.8. I think that Castillo does enough to hold you under. So like the under and the Mariners on the run line. 9:17, 9:18 on the card. The Marlins are on the road against the Yankees. Max Fried is on the bump for the Yankees, and it is one Mr. Chris Paddock on the bump for Miami. Totals between 8 to 8.5 on the 8. The over is -120. The under is even on the 8.5. Under is -120. Over is even for the Yankees. They're between -275 to -280 favorites. They're between +220 to +230 is that number on Miami. If you're looking to lay a run and a half, I am seeing the Yankees at about -120 to -125, and I'd be willing to go up to a -138. Max Fried in his first 2 starts has looked dominant, and last year he got off to such a good start as well. He's not like a master of getting swings and misses, but he's good enough in terms of getting swings and misses, and the command was very good from him in his first year in New York, as last season 8.7 strikeouts to 2.3 walks per 9 innings, give it up to 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. When your home ballpark is Yankee Stadium, that's pretty rock solid. And Chris Paddock just looks absolutely washed at this point. He had a rough first start for the Marlins as he posted up a very nice, solid quality 8 runs allowed in 4 innings, and last season between the time with the Twins and the Detroit Tigers, 5.35 ERA, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. Doesn't give up a lot of walks, but down to 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, the Marlins actually entered into the series number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Very small sample size, especially when you're going up against the Rockies and the Chicago White Sox, so take that with a little bit of grain of salt, but I do actually think that this bullpen has some upside. Lake Picard is able to give you a few good innings. He's posting up a sub 4 ERA. John King, he was solid with the St. Louis Cardinals. Calvin Fauché is pretty good as a, shall we say, middle reliever, and Pete Fairbanks, I think, is a good closer for the Marlins. They've got functional power. Liam Hicks, 3+ home runs already this season. They are still dealing with the injury to Kyle Stowers, so I think that might catch up with them sooner rather than later, but Owen Casey, he was a very highly touted prospect for the Cubs. He's hitting above a 300. He's been able to give the team multiple home runs. Otto Lopez was one of the more unlucky hitters in all of baseball last season, and Xavier Edwards is hitting above a 400, so love to see that. And for the New York Yankees, you know that these guys are going to be able to hit sooner rather than later. Aaron Judge isn't really moving the line, but he's already got 3 home runs this season. Ben Rice looks like he's in for a really nice season. He got off to a nice start last season as well. Jose Cabrera, Ryan McMahon at the infield spots, they need to pick it up, but Giancarlo Stanton is hitting for power, and he's finding a way on base. Cody Bellinger is nice in terms of finding a way on as well, and then with this Yankees bullpen, even though they no longer have Luke Weaver, David Bednar, Emilio Duvall, who they picked up at the trade deadline, like these guys. Brent Hedrick was a really underrated guy for them last season. Last year was posting up like a 3.13 ERA. He's got some upside there. Tim Hill is able to do a nice job holding on the fort, so do think that the Yankees win this game in convincing fashion. Set them at a -138 on the run line, so do like that run line. Did semi-total here at an 8.2, mostly seeing 8s, willing to take that 8 to the over. 9:19, 9:20 on the card. The Slam Diego Padres are on the road against the Boston Red Sox, as you've got Mr. Rangers Juarez on the bump for Boston, and Walker Buehler goes for the Padres. Padres, sizable underdogs between plus 122 to a plus 135, minus 144 to minus 160 is that number on Boston. 9 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Overs between minus 105 to minus 110. With the Red Sox, set them at a minus 146 on the money line. So seeing that minus 144, wouldn't want to go past it, but I'm going to be willing to lay the money line. Rangers Suarez, throughout his career with the Phillies, actually had a worse ERA at home rather than away from him, so have to wonder if that lingers a little bit. Had a rough first start against the Houston Astros, gave up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, but overall was very solid last year. 3.20 ERA, 3.21 fielding dependent. Always does a great job keeping the ball in the yard. Gave up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings last season. That's his career average. He gives you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I mean, he's not a strikeout artist, but he's pretty solid there. And Walker Buehler just has not been the same guy ever since all the injuries. Last year, he was just absolutely miserable. Did have a few okay outings with the Philadelphia Phillies, but I mean, in his time with the Boston Red Sox last season across 22 starts, he was applying a 5.45 ERA with a 5.89 fielding dependent with 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. Very clear that he was not very comfortable pitching out there in Boston, to say the least. And for the Red Sox, a team that was really scuffling coming into the series, they're now looking to be a little bit better on offense. They were able to get things back up and running here in the first few games of the series, and you have to like what you've got just top to bottom in this lineup. Wilson Contreras is always good for a 350 plus on base and functional power. Roman Anthony doesn't necessarily hit the deep ball, but darn near 400 last season. Ceddanne Rafaela, I think, has some upside. He's hitting for a little bit more average this year. Last year, he supplied the team with 16 home runs. Trevor Story got to 25 bombs last season. Carlos Cervantes is a good hitting catcher, and for the Red Sox last year, they were number 2 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, they've got Garrett Whitlock on the paternity list, so congratulations to him, but that said, they pick up Danny Kalum, who had a sub-3 ERA last season. Greg Weissert was pretty solid in the bullpen. 2 years ago, Justin Slayton was really good. Last year, a little bit more shaky, and if they can find Giovanni Morin and that form that he had in 2022 with the Twins, when he was providing like a 2.22 ERA, they've got some upside there. And then on the flip side, you've got a San Diego Padres team that is number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA, but they are dealing with an injury to Jason Adam. That really hurts this team. They no longer have Robert Suarez from a season ago, and Audrey Morejon is really good, but they had to use him up for 29 pitches yesterday. Mason Miller has been a nice lockdown closer, but Jeremiah Estrada has been having his issues to begin the season. For the Padres, you do have to be looking at Jake Cronenworth along with Jackson Merrill after having rough seasons last year as bounce-back candidates. Freddie Fermin should be able to help out at the catcher spot as well. He is a guy that always hits above at 250. A little bit of a rough start to the season, but should be able to pick it up. Ramon Laureano, Miguel Andujar, not necessarily super power hitters, but Laureano has a little bit of pop in the bat. These guys move line. Then Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., you know what to expect out of those guys. So I did set a nice total here of a 9.1. I'm going to be in on the over. And for the Red Sox, I did set them at a minus 146. Want to lay that minus 144 money line to go along with the over. 921, 922. It's the Baltimore Orioles on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Braxton Ashcraft hopes to not be a load of Ashcraft for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for Baltimore. Baltimore between a plus 102 to a plus 105 underdog, minus 120 to minus 126 is that number on Pittsburgh. So on game is 8.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. For the Pirates, I could only set them at a minus 113 here on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run half with it, you're finding that right around about a plus 185. I'm even seeing a plus 210. Personally, I would rather just go with a massive plus money run line right now, because I do think that Chris Bassett has the propensity to be falling off the rails. Looked really shaky in his first start with the Baltimore Orioles. Right now for Bassett, last season, he was neither here nor there with the Blue Jays. 3.96 ERA, 4.01 fielding dependent, 8.8 strikeouts, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So didn't stink it up, but was far from amazing as well. But in that first start with Baltimore, he really gave it up. 4 1/3 innings, allowed 4 runs, 4 walks. He looked very shaky, and now he's up there in age at 37. And for Braxton Ashcraft, he could knock himself out of the start very early. He was giving up over 3 walks per 9 innings last season. And for Ashcraft, in his first start of the season, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings, did give up the 4 walks, but he clearly has a lot of upside, some good swing and miss stuff. For the Pirates, you just never know what you're going to get out of this bullpen. Gregory Soto is now your closer. That's a place where you don't want to be. But that said, they do have a few, shall we say, middle guys that are pretty solid. Mace Montgomery, Justin Lawrence. These are guys that are capable of giving you a sub-4 ERA. Isaac Manson, I like him as well. And for the Pirates, last year they were dead sinking last in terms of runs per game. They look to be much better this year. Connor Griffin is a young guy that has so much upside. Now the likes of Jared Trollo, along with like a Spencer Horowitz, Joey Bart, Henry Davis at the catcher spot. Not necessarily great, but I like the pickup of Brandon Lau from the Rays. He's already got 3 home runs. They pick up Marcell Ozuna, who provided a lot of boom for the Atlanta Braves over the last few seasons. Oneil Cruz, if he can be more consistent in terms of getting on base, that'd be big. He's already got 3 home runs this season, season, and he was just miserable in terms of moving the line last season. And for the Orioles, they're dealing with injuries already, as you've got Jordan Westberg currently on the injured list along Jackson Holiday, so they're looking to some younger guys like the pickup of Blaze Alexander. He does a nice job getting on base. Obviously, Pete Alonso can supply some boom. Only one home run thus far. That'll be going northward. Gunnar Anderson does a solid job moving the line, give you some good power. And Adley Rutschman hasn't provided power, but he's looking much better this year than he did 8 seasons ago. But Kobe Mayo has struggled. Tyler O'Neill has been struggling. Colton Cowser, you don't know what to expect out of him. And for the Orioles, Ryan Helsley does look like the Ryan Helsley of old in the bullpen, and I do think that Rico Garcia is rock solid, but Yanier Cano's looked to have fallen off a cliff. Tyler Wells is a relatively good long guy, but they used him up quite a bit in the earlier part of the season. Dietrich Enns is not too bad, but Yarmil Hidalgo, I have absolutely no faith in him along Grant Wolfram, so it is a circumstance where with the Pirates getting that just massive plus number on the run line, that does appeal to me, just because I think that Chris Bassett could be in for an awful start. So, like the run line here, some I told at 80.2, think that Ashcraft helps you out to the under, so on the 8.5, in on the under. Now we've got a double dip, 923, 924, in conjecture with 931, 932. Cubs versus Guardians. In the first game, you're going to be getting Edward Cabrera versus Slade Sassoni. Right now, that opener is the Cubs being minus 126 to minus 130, plus 108 to plus 110 is that number on Cleveland. Total between 7 and 7.5 on the 7 overs, minus 120, the unders even on the 7.5, unders minus 120, and the overs even. And then game 2 will be Shota Imanaga versus Parker Misek, and we will hit that in a minute because currently I'm not seeing any numbers up on that second game of the double dip. But in game number 1, I did set the Cubs at a minus 129. I'm willing to lay that like minus 125 or so money line that I'm seeing right now. Edward Cabrera was really good with the Miami Marlins last season. He was able to keep the walks down, and that's big for him because throughout his career he's given up 4.5 walks per 9 innings, but last season he was able to get that down to a much more respectable number of about 3.1 walks per 9 innings, 353 ERA, 383 fielding independent. So I like his stuff. He's always able to give you about 10 or so strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Slade Sassoni, he only gave out about 2.2 walks per 9 innings last season, but was giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, down below 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 430 ERA compared to a 464 field independent. Now he is backed up by the better bullpen because for the Cubs, they did let go of a lot of their bullpen pieces like Brad Keller and company from a season ago. Now you're relying upon Hobie Milner, which that's not a place where you want to be. Jacob Webb was actually very good in the Rangers bullpen, so I did think that was a relatively good pickup for them, but you also lose a guy like a Drew Pomeranz, who I recognize he's not having a great season for the Angels, but last year for this Cubs team, he was pretty rock solid, as well as have Daniel Palencia. And then for the Cubs, they just completely fell off the table with their just overall offense last season. First half of the season, it was rock solid, and right now you've got Ian Happ, who's been able to give you 3 home runs. He's looked very solid to begin the season, but what are you going to be able to get out of some of these guys that have scuffled out of the gates? Like right now, you've got Pico Armstrong, who hasn't been able to give you a lot of power, but he's doing an okay job in terms of moving the line for this team. You've been able to get a little bit more out of the catcher spot recently, but after a big year last year, we're noticing a little bit of a fall off right now for Carson Kelly. Alex Bregman has been a little bit cold to start the season. Seiya Suzuki is right now on the injured list. Moises Ballesteros need a little bit more there, but I do think that sooner rather than later, these guys are going to be all picked up. And for the Guardians, they do have a lot of guys that are just not great towards the bottom of the lineup. The top of the lineup is solid, like the 5 home runs out of Chase DeLauder to begin the season. That has been absolutely magnificent for the team. You know that Jose Ramirez is good for 25 plus home runs, hitting above a 275, but these guys like Daniel Sheeman, Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, you go down the list of guys hitting a 230 or lower with not a lot of power. That's an issue, but again, a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA last season. Sean Armstrong is a good sub 375 ERA guy that's able to give you multiple innings. Cade Smith has been struggling in the bullpen though. Eric Sabrowski, he was good in this bullpen last year, but Hunter Gaddis is right now dealing with injury, so Kobe Allard has had to step up as a little bit more of a long guy. Do think that Edward Cabrera in game number 1 does find a way to be able to get the job done, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 128 there, and then I did my total at a 7.8, so right now at that 7.5, we'll be looking at the over. And then 931, 932, again, no numbers up on this game, but with Parker Messick and the Guardians, I did set them at a minus 126, so I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 125 on that money line. I just really don't have a lot of faith in Shota Imanaga because he's not too much of a strikeout guy. The command is good. Last year he was giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, but to go along with the 373 ERA, 486 fielding independent, giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, had a shaky first start of the season, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, so that's something that you have to be quite frightful of as well. Again, Guardians don't necessarily have the world's greatest lineup in the world, but I mean, even in games away from home, because you can attribute a lot of his home runs to the Wrigley Field win last season, but still away from home, he was giving up about 1.6, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings as well. The Guardians have a little bit of a better bullpen, and with Parker Messick, this guy was just absolutely tremendous in his small sample size last season. Heck, you take a look at his first start this season as well, so you combine the 8 total starts throughout his career, 2.36 ERA at the big league level, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.8 home runs, 1.2 walks allowed per 9. This guy has been absolutely magnificent for the Cleveland Guardians, so do think that in game number 2, Guardians should be able to get the job done. I'm willing to lay up to minus 125 in Messick versus Imanaga, and then set a similar total here of a 7.7, so 7.5 or less in on the over, 8 or higher to the under, so that'll be withstanding for both games. And then, like I said, in the game number 2 with Messick, minus 126 is what I set the Guardians at, and then in game number 1, I made the Cubs minus 129, so hopefully I kept that double dip straight for you guys. 925, 926 on the card. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against Kansas City Royals. Chris with K. Bubich is on the bump for the Royals. Kyle Harrison is on the bump for Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a underdog here between even money to plus 112, minus 120 to minus 132. That number on Kansas City, 8 is the total. The under is between minus 115 to minus 120. Over is between even to minus 105. Seeing a straight 7.5 out there. That over is minus 120. The under is even, and I'm willing to lay with the Royals. I set them at a minus 144 on the money line. Chris with the K. Bubich was just so good last year. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.5 home runs allowed per 9. The fielding independent was below a 3. The overall ERA was about a 2.55, and I think that Kyle Harrison is really going to be able to develop because the Brewers do such a great job in terms of being able to train up these young pitchers, but he was a little bit shaky last year between his time with the Red Sox and the Giants. 4.04 ERA, 3.72 fielding independent. The swing and miss stuff is there. He was last year getting 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and first start of the season here with the Brewers, 8 punch-outs in 5 innings, so he's got a lot of upside, but the walks, he's given up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings throughout his career, so that's something that you do have to be feeling a little bit questionable about for the Brewers. This is obviously a team that's not going to give you a ton of power, but they just have so many guys that move the line, like Bryce Terang, along Sal Frelick. He'll give you 20-plus stolen bases. They both do a good job finding a way on base. Gary Sanchez is right now giving them quite a bit. Christian Yelich was able to look a little bit more like the Christian Yelich of old. He's never going to get back to MVP form, but 29 home runs, 345 on base. He was able to do a great job on that front. Jory Ortiz seems to be developing nicely at the shortstop spot, and Brandon Lockridge has actually been able to give this team quite a bit of something. He was a part of a trade with the Padres last season. Then on the flip side for the Kansas City Royals, I do think that this offense is going to be able to take off a little bit more. Salvador Perez just doesn't move the line anymore, but Jack Caglione is hitting above a 300 after a miserable year last year. Now, Jonathan India, I don't know if he figures it out. He's just been rough ever since they traded for him from the Reds. Kyle Isbell, though, he's had himself a really nice start to the season. Bobby Witt Jr. is always good for 25-plus bombs, give you over 375 on base. Vinny Pasquantino, 30-plus home runs last season. And for the Royals, this team was a top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA last season. Both of these bullpens were solid last year. Now, you do have a case where the teams had to play 18 innings yesterday, so both of these bullpens are going to be tasked, but a guy like a Daniel Lynch is able to give you multiple innings, sub 350 ERA last season. I'd like to pick up a Matt Strahm from the Phillies. Lucas Ursic is right now serving as a closer with Carlos Estevez on the injured list, but Nick Mears is a guy that was with the Milwaukee Brewers last few seasons. He was rock solid for them. And then for the Brewers, you've got the likes of Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, all these guys that supplied a sub 325 ERA. Pretty much all these guys are able to go for multiple innings. Grant Anderson is a guy that's able to give you some good length as well. So I do think that the pitching is going to be solid here, but keep in mind that they moved the fences in over there at Kauffman Stadium. I do think that that's going to cause for some more scoring, along with both bullpens being a little bit more taxed than normal. So set a total of an 8.4, like the over, and the Royals, I'm willing to lay it with them. Set them at a minus 144 on the money line. 927, 928. The Reds are on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. He's on to Chase Burns, getting the start for them. And you've got Jack Leiter on the bump for Texas. Texas is back to being minus 118 to minus 126 favorites. You have money to plus 105, that number on the Reds. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, the over and under are both at minus 110. On the 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even. And set a total here in 8.1. So I do like the over for Jack Leiter. He was really able to come into his own last season after having that miserable 2024 season where he was posting up like an 8.81 or so ERA, so I know it was all sorts of terrible. Last season, he still was giving up right around about 4 walks per 9 innings, but looked much better, lowered that ERA to a 3.85, 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 8.8 punch-outs per 9, and he's backed up by a sneaky good bullpen. Last year, the Texas Rangers were 5th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, they do lose a key cog from that bullpen in Jacob Webb, but still, you've got quite a few rock-solid pieces. Robert Garcia was able to give you a sub-350 ERA last season. Jalen Beeks, Jacob Junis don't necessarily have the world's greatest ERAs, base, but they're able to fill some innings. Jacob Latz is a really good long guy. Cole Winn supplied a sub-2 ERA. Carter Baumler is the young guy that they're going to be looking to in this bullpen. He's got some upside as well. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, they were about a league average bullpen last year. I like Tony Santillan. He was able to supply a sub-350 ERA. Pierce Johnson and Brock and Roll Burke were pretty solid with their respective teams last year, but they've been shaky, and I do not trust Emilio Pagan at the closer spot. He is not good, to say the least. And for the Reds, this offense is looking solid with Ellie De La Cruz already supplying 3 home runs this season, and Eugenio Suarez, he had 49 home runs last season. He's been able to give the team some pretty solid power thus far this season, and you've been able to have Sal Stewart really be able to have a nice start to the season. It looks like he's going to be the real deal. Flip side for the Rangers, you pick up Brandon Nimmo, a guy that's hitting above a 300 right now. That was big for this lineup. Jock Peterson just looks washed at this point, and the Josh Smith, Josh Young, they're off to a relatively slow start, but Corey Seager being back and being healthy is big. When he's at his peak, he's able to give you 30 home runs and darn near 400 on base. Wyatt Langford, I think, is going to take some strides forward. Hasn't drawn a lot of walks this far. It's going to need to work on that, but I do think that for the Rangers, they get a pretty good start here out of Leiter, and I think that Chase Burns is going to be able to give you a good start as well. I do think that the ballpark dimensions for the Rangers are relatively the same, but I know that they had something going on last year that really suppressed offense, so they were looking into that in the offseason. And for Chase Burns, the question is he going to be able to give you length? Because this guy has great stuff. Last year, 13.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 457 ERA, 265 fielding pen, so indicates that he got unlucky, but did give out 3.3 walks per 9 innings last season. First start of the year here this year was able to throw 5 shutout innings, but still did give up the 3 walks, so that's a little bit of a concern along with that Reds bullpen, and that's a big reason why I'm in on the over. Semi-total at 8.1, and with the Rangers willing to lay up to a minus 130 on the money line, made that a minus 131, and wrap things up with 929, 930. The Cardinals are on the road against the Tigers. Cadero Montero is on the bump for the Tigres, and you've got Kyle Leahy going for St. Louis. St. Louis is a underdog of between plus 113 to a plus 120. Meanwhile, minus 135 to minus 140. That number on Detroit, and your total is an 8. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 115. The over is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I'm going to be willing to lay with the Tigers. I did set them on the money line at a minus 146. Now, recognize that Kadir Montero is not a guy that's going to be just absolutely lighting the world on fire or anything like that. For Montero last year, 1.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.6 home runs per 9. Did have a 4.37 ERA, but backed up by a 4.93 fielding dependent. And Kyle Leahy out of the bullpen last year was solid with a 3.07 ERA. It's never been much of a swing and miss guy. 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Looks shaky in his first start, allowing 4 runs in 5 innings. When you convert a bullpen piece into being a starter, sometimes it's just a roll of the dice, and some guys are just meant for the bullpen. I don't know if Leahy's going to be able to cut it as a starter, and this has been a Cardinals bullpen that's been quite shaky. Same goes for the Tigers. Both of these teams entered into yesterday with above a 4.9 ERA in their respective bullpens. I do think that for the Cardinals, they're going to pick it up a little bit more. Jojo Romero was able to spy a sub 350 ERA last season. Justin Brule, I thought, was a solid pickup from the LA Dodgers. They did have to use Matt Savancet and Chris Roycroft for quite a few pitches in their game on Saturday, so that's an issue. And Ryan Stanek is not looking good at the closer spot, but I do like Riley O'Brien. And for this Cardinals lineup, they have been able to get quite a bit out of their young guys. Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, these are 2 guys that are hitting right around 300. Not getting a lot of power out of Scott, but Walker has the propensity to be able to give you some bombs. JJ Weatherholt has done a nice job moving the line, already has a walk-off hit to his credit. Ron Herrera at the catcher spot last year at over a 350 on base. Pedro Baez a little bit of a rough start to the season, but I like Alec Burleson, what he brings to the table. Last season, he was one of the main constants for the team. 18 home runs, 343 on base, despite dealing with some injuries. And for this Detroit Tigers lineup, you just have 1 through 9, a very balanced lineup. Riley Green last year, 30-plus home runs. He does a solid job reaching base. Spencer Torkelson not going to hit for an amazing average, but he's another guy that had 30-plus home runs last season. Kerry Carpenter, he had for himself 25-plus home runs and did a great job moving the line last season. Matt Vierling was able to go deep yesterday, so you've got a lot of guys coming into their own. Gleyber Torres, Cole Keith, they both do a good job moving the line. Dylan Dingler as well. And for the Tigers, it's been a little bit shaky with the bullpen to start the season, but you have so many guys like Tyler Holton, Brant Herter, Woolves. These are all guys that are capable of giving you a sub 350 ERA. They had a lot of bullpen injuries last season that caused their 2025 ERA to be a little bit higher than what you'd like. And Kenley Jansen is just not very trustworthy, to say the least, so that's a little bit of an issue for you, but I like the fact that they picked up Kyle Finnegan after the trade deadline last year at a 150 ERA with the team. If they can get Bailey Horn out there as well, he's right now dealing with injury. He was very rock solid in this bullpen as well, so I did set the Tigers here at a minus 146 on the money line, willing to lay it in. I do think that you get a higher scoring game with Montero and Leahy going, so I totaled an 8.6, so like the over as well, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GNet_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day, give you a picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So, I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. And also, big thanks to William Boor, who joined me in segment number 2. So, I'll chat with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.